My friends, pay attention. The world thinks that World War III is happening in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, or in the scorching sands of the Middle East. But the most brutal truth of modern geopolitics is that the real war for the survival of the West is happening silently right now, at your doorstep. Because yesterday Donald Trump went on television and didn't send a message to the media. He sent a direct and blunt decree to the supreme leader of China, Xi Jinping. Trump's message was short and delivered with the fury of a wounded lion. The Panama Canal will not be Chinese, he said. The American doctrine of defending the Western Hemisphere was reactivated with brutality. And what I'm going to reveal to you now is something the mainstream media deliberately hides. China's global domination doesn't happen with marching armies, bombs falling, or war fleets openly firing missiles. Beijing's expansion is what I call the titanium fungus. That's our metaphor for today, and I want you to keep it in your mind forever. How does a fungus act? Well, it doesn't attack the tree by forcefully knocking down the trunk. It infiltrates through the roots silently in the dark, spreading its filaments inside the host structure. It puts the tree's natural defenses to sleep and numbs them. And when the tree finally realizes it's being devoured, it's already too late. The fungus has already replaced the wood with its own tissue. It has made the tree dependent on it. And the Chinese titanium fungus is exactly that, my friends. A network of unpayable debts, shady infrastructure contracts, surveillance technology, and institutional bribery that seeps in through the pores, gates, and highways of underdeveloped countries. And Panama was about to be completely swallowed up by this communist fungus. For China, investing in Latin America was never about free trade or economic philanthropy. It was always about civilizational infiltration within the United States. The titanium fungus had already taken over dozens of strategic ports near the Panama Canal. They were building the web to control the most vital naval logistics artery of the Western Hemisphere, strangling free trade where the lifeblood of the global economy flows. If China controlled Panama, the People's Liberation Army could, in practice, cut the Atlantic Ocean off from the Pacific Ocean whenever it wanted. But Donald Trump has just taken the financial and political flamethrower to burn this fungus at the root. Yes, my friends, the time has come and you are alive to see it. And to understand why the titanium fungus is so lethal and why leaders in Brasilia and Latin America fall so easily into this trap, we need to go down to the second level of tactical intelligence analysis. But before that, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like on the video because it takes a lot of work to put this analysis together. Most secular analysts make the primary mistake of looking at the Chinese Silk Road purely as a billion-dollar infrastructure project. This is a billion-dollar infrastructure project. This is tactical blindness. China doesn't want trade partners. China demands complete civilizational submission. The heart of the Chinese project is not the economy. It's a political theology that's 3,000 years old, and it's called Tianxia. Remember this word. Tianxia means everything under heaven. In the Chinese cosmological view, the world is not a board of independent nations with their own sovereignty. In Beijing's mind, there is only China as the absolute moral and civilized center of the universe. And the rest of the planet is made up of peripheral barbarians who must be harmonized by the central authority of the emperor, or today, the Chinese Communist Party. And when Xi Jinping expands his billion-dollar projects, he's not building highways for profit. He's exporting civilizational dominance. It's the titanium fungus penetrating your nation. In the days of the old empire, China didn't just want to send fabrics. They demanded that vassal nations adopt their rituals, their Confucian texts, and their mindset to align the thinking of the conquered populations. Today, the new Silk Road does exactly the same thing, using modern infrastructure. More than 150 countries have signed on to this subjugation through debt. China approaches a Latin American country with financial problems and offers to build a colossal port, a rail network, or a 5G internet telecommunications network. But the titanium fungus contract has a lethal toxin hidden inside. The ports are financed by China, built by Chinese labor, not Brazilian, not Caribbean, not Panamanian, with Chinese surveillance technology and managed by Chinese state-owned companies. Do you understand the difference? They install their mass surveillance architecture, their vision of autocratic governance, and their model of social submission on foreign soil. And this is where the system shakes in Brazil and the rest of Latin America. The political system in Brasilia, sunk in corruption and inefficiency, benefits enormously from this invisible network. For local bureaucrats, Chinese money flows easily, without strict requirements. Requirements for transparency, human rights, or compliance audits that the West demands. Look at what's happening over there in Bahia with the BYG factory. Look at what's happening in Minas, where a Chinese man whipped a Brazilian worker. China numbs local politicians with easy money from infrastructure deals and indirect bribes. And in return, they tie the nation's future and its national sovereignty to an addictive dependence on Beijing. The fungus numbs the country so it can rob it. Several of its strategic assets: its lithium, its agribusiness, its communication infrastructure, and its naval ports. And it is exactly against this silent domination that Donald Trump issued his ultimatum. The clear and aggressive message about the Panama Canal is not just an isolated tactical threat, it is the reactivation of the Monroe Doctrine with sharp teeth and claws. The Monroe Doctrine 2.0 in geopolitical jargon, the United States has always seen the Western Hemisphere as its strategic sanctuary, its backyard, so to speak. For decades, previous American presidents have taken a cowardly stance, leaving the gate open. While China and Russia were planting their toxic seeds in Caracas, in Havana, and in various parts of Central America, including Brazil. But now the return of the American lion signals that the cleanup in the Americas has begun, and if China is playing the game of Tianxia, all under heaven, the answer to the United States' own theopolitics is its own manifest destiny, the shining city on the hill. Where the hill is the entire Western Hemisphere, which must be free from Asian autocratic colonial powers. The confrontation is no longer hidden, it is happening in real time. The Trump administration is systematically cutting off the Silk Road access routes in the region. They are spraying geopolitical fungicide on the titanium fungus. The physical expulsion of Chinese and Russian military influence and infrastructure from the Americas has become a red alert national security priority for Washington. And then you ask me, but Shimon Oliveira, why is the Panama Canal the point of no return in this war of annihilation? The physics of logistics explains, if the United States allowed a company linked to the People's Liberation Army to control both sides or the operating systems of the canal's locks, the fleets of the American Navy could be sabotaged, tracked by AI, or delayed at a moment of crisis. And the supply of energy and food to the American East Coast would be held hostage by an enemy living on the other side of the Pacific. The canal is the choke point of the economy. And Trump used the pulpit to draw a red line. Either Panama distances the project from Beijing's invisible influence, or it will face the direct consequences of Washington's sanctions machine. Next comes the forced dismantling of the Eastern Web. And then you ask me, but Shimon Oliveira, what does that have to do with me? Your question is legitimate, but why does this matter for my company and my situation in Brazil? My friend, pay close attention, because this is where the thread of the global web connects to your wallet and the sovereignty of your nation. What we are witnessing today is not an isolated event. It's the second phase of a colossal operation. Remember our previous briefing, where I revealed how the US Treasury Department activated OFAC to apply lethal sanctions, cutting off the money laundering system of Brazilian transnational factions like Comando Vermelho and PCC, crushing their financial capacity and freezing criminal accounts from São Paulo to Lisbon. That financial clampdown against transnational crime is the first blade of the American scissors. The second blade is this geopolitical expulsion of the titanium fungus now promoted by Trump. The Brazilian system is in a state of absolute panic, and the politicians in Brasilia are breaking out in a cold sweat behind the scenes. And why? Because the supreme source of nutrients for the current corrupt model, the easy, opaque, and morally unchecked money from Beijing, which moves through hidden networks of infrastructure and strategic partnerships, is being actively hunted and cut off by Washington. In the geopolitical chessboard of Latin America, Brazil has always been the crown jewel. China has already embedded the titanium fungus in the heart of the country's electric sector, port infrastructure, and telecommunications network. Beijing's plan was to turn South America into its perpetual vassal breadbasket, using the weakness of leftist leaderships in the region to inject capital without demanding democratic transparency safeguards. Now Trump is pulling the plug. The pressure on Panama is just a dress rehearsal. He is pulling the cables out of this infiltrated structure. The veiled order coming from the White House to the elites of Latin America is very simple. Either you do business within the legal, traceable Western system under Washington's protection, or you choose to embrace Chinese authoritarianism and you will face total economic isolation, intelligence strangulation, and the freezing of your fortunes in the Caribbean islands and in Miami banks. Not to mention that in the end, it all ends with aircraft carriers arriving on your coast and special operations taking the supreme leader to American territory. There's no middle ground anymore. The corrupt domestic system that comfortably surfed between Chinese money and American guarantees saw the water dry up overnight. The hidden networks of bribery and Chinese civilizational sponsorship were revealed in the light of day, and the system trembles in fear. Now the time has come for our technical verdict, the surgical, dispassionate analysis that mainstream media does not have the courage or ability to do. The world of 2026 no longer tolerates the illusion of neutrality. The era of playing both sides of the board is over. The world is splitting between two absolute visions of power. Either the freedom of the Western Hemisphere, supported by the American doctrine of containment, or the totalitarian theology of all under heaven, imposed by the Chinese titanium fungus. And as an exercise for our community of shielded minds, I want you to take your place as a geopolitical strategist and go now to the comments and show that you understand. Write the two key words in capital letters: the communist fungus, or the lion of the West. I want to see who here has the insight and intellectual courage to grasp the scale of the invisible danger our nations are facing. I repeat, communist fungus or the lion of the West. And the strategic question I leave burning in your mind today is this, as a true open loop for our next intelligence analysis. Now Trump forced Panama to back down and kick China out of its vital territory. What will be the next move? The next infiltrated pawn in Latin America to have the Chinese money cables brutally disconnected in the crosshairs of Washington's lion. The dominoes are falling and the cleanup of our border has begun. My friends, the lesson from this entire strategic scenario is unforgiving. Those who do not master the projection of power are inevitably swallowed by the system. The war you fight today in the market is not for physical territory. It's for the most valuable currency in the world, people's attention. Yes, and on that front I'm already ahead. Have you noticed how hard it is for the public to absorb serious content on social media? It feels like only dance videos or superficial memes can go viral. I used to think the same way. 15 years ago, when I started in radio and television, I learned a golden rule. The mechanism to generate unquestionable authority depends purely on deep content. There is a solid strategy. Many entrepreneurs want their product to be recognized, but they haven't understood that the game now is about media. It's about retaining attention and delivering value. Take the case of Chimed. To triple its sales dramatically, a pharmaceutical company understood that it needs to operate like a media company. Look at the case of Havan. Yes, the old man from Havan showed up and keeps opening new stores all over Brazilian territory and now outside of it as well. Because, my friend, the reality is that your identity cannot be outsourced. The owner of the business needs to put himself out there and set the vision. Is that era over, when making little videos on your phone with zero authority could solve your business problems? This space is competitive and demands elite professionalism. And pay attention, the problem isn't the algorithm. The goal isn't to become a superficial influencer, but to build your own magnetic communication ecosystem, making the algorithm's math work for you. This allows you to increase your margins, serve the best clients, and gain access that was previously restricted. I validated this method by generating over 50 million monetized monthly views paid in dollars, which is worth 5 times more here in Brazil. And this is real proof that whoever masters retention masters the market. The real product you need isn't an event, it's your definitive transformation into an authority. And to make that happen in practice, I created an exclusive immersive workshop. On July 12th, I will hold this meeting 100% in person, face-to-face with me, here in my studio in Curitiba with my team, where I will guide and direct you with a method, but I'm strict with the numbers. There are only 10 seats. When the 10th spot is filled, the steel door closes. The QR code is on the screen now. The secure link is in the description, in the first pinned comment, and in my bio. Type "I want" in the comments and I'll send you the link right now myself. Secure your spot and strengthen your communication with Shimon Oliveira. Look, you won't be able to sit down with the owner of Havan or the owner of Chimed to tell you what they did. I'll do that with you. Everything is validated. And as a vital bonus for your peace of mind on the weekend, stop right now wasting your precious time scrolling through streaming catalogs on Netflix, on Amazon. To help you find good movies, I created a channel with tips on series and movies where the recommendations are spot on. No culture war, no whining, so you can just sit back and enjoy with your family. So the link is in the description, in the pinned comment, and in the card that appears on your screen now. My friends, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and like the video because it takes a lot of work to make. Fortify your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.